Chapter 5639 Madness. In the heart of Supervisor Kai, he really felt that Instructor Lu had been driven mad by He Xingjiu. Otherwise, how could he have gone mad all of a sudden? However, this Yan Qingqing had always been with him, so she did not have the time to make a move. In confusion, the two entered the alchemy room. As soon as they entered, they saw Instructor Lu running around in the courtyard like a mad dog. He was still shouting, "I am an alchemy master. Ha ha ha. I am the #1 alchemist in the 10 Directions Academy. You don't dare to look down on me anymore. I, Lu Dazhuang, will be able to make a name for myself in the future." Director Kai frowned and ordered the guards behind him, "Restrain him. I will check on his condition." When Instructor Lu heard Director Kai's words, he raised his head. When he saw Yun Chujiu, he revealed an arrogant laugh. "Stupid girl. You still don't know, right? You've been poisoned. Ha ha ha, you're dead." Yun Chujiu's face revealed a look of fear. "You're lying. I'm not poisoned." Instructor Lu revealed a sinister and proud smile. "Not poisoned? You idiot." The fragrance emitted by the earth dragon ginseng during the process of processing, combined with the fragrance of golden jade ji, red silk cotton, gyupi, and silk flowers, is the falling spirit powder. "You're dead." Yun Chujiu trembled violently. You are spouting nonsense. I have no enmity with you. Why are you trying to harm me? Because you have offended someone you should not have offended. You deserve to die. Bitch, go to hell. As Instructor Lu spoke, murderous intent burst forth from his red eyes as he pounced on Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu naturally would not sit still and wait for her death. She quickly hid behind Director Kai. She was certain that no matter how much Director Kai disliked her, he would not ignore her life and death. As expected, Director Kai stopped Instructor Lu. The other guards also swarmed forward and subdued Instructor Lu. Instructor Lu's current state was even crazier than before. He spoke incoherently and even scolded Director Kai. "Kai Zio, don't think that I'm afraid of you. Aren't you just a few years older than me? Otherwise, I would also be a director." Yun Chujiu held back her laughter until she was about to cramp up. "Kai Zio. Rapeseed oil." Supervisor Kai was naturally very angry. He slapped Instructor Lu until he fainted and then began to check his pulse. The result of checking his pulse was out of his expectations. He found that Instructor Lu was not in any serious condition. It seemed that he was only in a moment of anger and anxiety, which led to his crazy state. He would recover after a little rest. It seemed that this matter had nothing to do with Yan Qingqing. Instructor Lu was narrow-minded and guilty, which led to his madness. However, according to what he said, he should have poisoned Yan Qingqing, so why was there nothing unusual about her? Also, the herbs Instructor Lu mentioned were not the same as what he had said before. Could it be that Yan Qingqing had really stolen those herbs? Just as President he was about to interrogate Yun Chujiu carefully, President he rushed over. Although President he did not know what had happened, when he saw Instructor Lu who was subdued and looked at Yun Chujiu who was standing next to President he, the first thought that popped up in his mind was, did the troublemaker cause trouble again? When President he came over, President he immediately ordered someone to bring Instructor Lu down to rest and keep an eye on him. He would interrogate him after he regained his consciousness. He accompanied President he back to the study and then said to Yun Chujiu, "Stretch out your right hand. I will check your pulse to see if you have really been hit by the falling spirit powder." Chapter 5638 Fell into the underground fire cellar. Yun Chujiu immediately stretched out her right hand and sobbed, "You have to take a good look at me. I haven't lived long enough. I don't want to die. Woo woo, I'm not married yet. I haven't had a baby yet. I really don't want to die. Director Kai, you have to save me." Director Kai glanced at her speechlessly and then began to take her pulse. After checking her pulse, he frowned. "Although you are not poisoned, it is not quite right. Are you still coming to Koishue?" Yun Chujo did not expect that Director Kai not only knew alchemy but also medical skills. She immediately squeezed out a blush on her face and nodded shyly. Director Kai thought for a moment and said, I can't figure out what the reason is for the time being. If you have the chance, find a famous doctor to take a good look. Yun Chujo nodded silently. Director Kai was only taking her pulse. Naturally, he didn't know the real reason. In the eyes of President He and Director Kai, her attitude made them feel a little sympathetic, but they couldn't say anything. Director Kai wanted to speak to President He alone, so he sent Yun Chujo out of the study and let her wander around the area. After Yun Chujo left, Director Kai told President He what had happened. I'm not sure if she has any ill intentions now. You just have to pay more attention in the future. Moreover, her cultivation is so low. Maybe she will be eliminated during the exam. We don't need to worry about it. Director Kai was on good terms with President He, so he spoke more casually. President He nodded. Let's not talk about whether this little girl has any ill intentions. She is a troublemaker. You see, she has only been in the upper house for less than half a day, and she has already caused trouble. However, according to what you said, Instructor Lu said that she was poisoned. Why is she fine? Could it be that she is proficient in pharmacology? Director Kai shook his head. She ascended from the Chongshao continent. She might not have heard of the herbs Instructor Lu mentioned before, not to mention that not many people know about the falling spirit powder. She would not know about it. It is possible that Lecturer Lu holds a grudge against her, so he spouted nonsense in his madness. Seeing that what he said made sense, President He did not mention this matter again. Instead, he changed the topic and talked about something else. After the two of them chatted for about an hour, a guard came in and reported, Director Kai, that Yan Qingqing from the lower house fell into the underground fire cellar. The faces of Director Kai and President He changed drastically. They immediately stood up and asked, What did you say? The guard had no choice but to repeat, Yan Qingqing fell into the underground fire cellar. Director Kai and President He couldn't believe their ears. How did she fall into the underground fire cellar? However, no matter how she fell in, saving her life was more important. However, was there still a need to save them? The underground fire was different from ordinary fire. If they had fallen into the underground fire cellar, would there still be a chance of survival? It seemed that they were thinking too much. This Yan Qingqing probably didn't have any ill intentions. Otherwise, how could she have died so easily? The two didn't have time to ask more questions and rushed to the underground fire cellar. The underground fire cellar was behind the alchemy room. The two hadn't even gotten close to it when they felt the heat. There were many students gathered nearby who were watching the show and pointing at the underground fire cellar. The round platform on top of the underground fire cellar that had originally been engraved with an array formation had already shattered. The flames in it shot up so high that the surrounding temperature suddenly increased by a lot. President He and Director Kai's hearts instantly turned cold. Yan Qingqing was dead for sure. Chapter 56-41 Fire Detection Hook. The face of the supervisor Kai was solemn. The earth fire used by the 10 Directions Academy was all purchased from other places and placed in the underground fire cellar. Then, they were all directed to each alchemy room. The underground fire cellar was usually covered with a round platform with a formation to isolate the temperature. Moreover, everyone knew that it was the underground fire cellar. Unless it was necessary, no one would go near it. How did Yan Qingqing fall into the underground fire cellar all of a sudden? However, now was obviously not the time to investigate the reason. It was better to first find out whether she was alive or dead, and then think of a way to rescue her. At this moment, Instructor Zhu, who was in charge of the underground fire cellar, rushed over. Although he was a lecturer, he did not need to teach on normal days. He only needed to be in charge of opening the underground fire cellar's array on specific days. It could be said to be the most leisurely task. Who would have thought that such a big thing would happen today? It was like a bolt from the blue. Fortunately, he later learned that the one who fell was only a student from the lower house and not a student from the upper house. Only then did he let out a slight sigh of relief. However, his heart was still in his throat. Unless that student from the lower house was lucky enough to be alive. Otherwise, he would most likely lose his job. Director Kai glanced at him and said in a low voice, "Hurry up and use the fire detection hook to test if Yan Qingqing is still alive." Instructor Zhu wiped the cold sweat off his head. He hurriedly took out a pitch-black hook and stuck it into the underground fire cellar. This fire detection hook was made of 1,000-year-old black iron. There was an array carved on it, so it would not be melted by the underground fire in a short period of time. Usually, Instructor Zhu would also use this fire detection hook to measure the stock of earth fire to determine the amount of earth fire tobui. Instructor Zhu carefully placed the fire detection hook in the underground fire cellar. He pulled it back and forth dozens of times before he dejectedly put the fire detection hook back in. Director Kai, I'm afraid that student has probably been burned to ashes. Director Kai was already mentally prepared for this. Although he had some doubts about Yun Chujia's motive for entering the Academy of 10 Directions, he did not have any conclusive evidence. It was really regrettable that a living person had died just like that. He then recalled Yun Chujia's previous words about how a tree that stood out in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. How did she fall into the underground fire cellar? Why? Director Kai looked around at the crowd that was watching the show. Everyone looked at each other, but no one said a word. Director Cai's expression immediately darkened. Just as he was about to fly into a rage, the crowd moved to the sides and Bei Yu walked in with a cold expression. Although Director Kai was the director of the alchemy division, he knew that Bei Yu was so outstanding. It was just that although Bei Yu was indifferent before, he did not have such a fierce aura as he did now. He was like a sword that was about to strike. Bei Yu walked in front of Director Kai and said expressionlessly, "An hour ago, Yan Qingqing sent me a message. She said that President He of the lower house had summoned me. However, halfway through my journey, she sent a message saying that Xiao Yanxiao had asked her to come here to make peace, asking me to meet up with her. I originally didn't want to pay attention to her, but I never expected that just a quarter of an hour ago, she would suddenly stop after sending me a message saying save me. Although I'm not familiar with her, and PM even very dissatisfied with her pestering me, since she finally asked me for help, I can't just pretend that nothing happened. I hope that the Kai department will give her justice." Director Cai's expression immediately became even uglier. Previously, President He had told him everything about Yan Qingqing, so naturally, he did not overlook the grudge between Yun Chuzhou and Xiao Yanxiao. Almost without investigation, he could determine that Yan Qingqing's death was related to Xiao Yanxiao. Chapter 56-42, What Happened? Director Kai thought of Instructor Lu's abnormal behavior and frowned even more. Instructor Lu had always thought highly of Xiao Yanxiao. Could it be that he was really trying to poison Yan Qingqing? And it was Xiao Yanxiao who instigated it? Director Kai looked at his trusted aide. "Tell me, what exactly happened?" Director Kai, Yan Qingqing was originally in the courtyard, eating melon seeds. Later, a student came to deliver a letter to her, saying that Xiao Yanxiao had invited her here to reconcile with her, so she left the courtyard. This subordinate was afraid that she would cause trouble, so he followed her all the way here. After the two met, Xiao Yanxiao did not reconcile with Yan Qingqing. Instead, the two of them began to argue. After arguing for a few words, Xiao Yanxiao said that whoever had the courage to stand on the round platform in the underground fire cellar had the right to pursue Bei Yu. Yan Qingqing did not want to be outdone and agreed. The two of them walked near the round platform, but they did not expect Xiao Yanxiao to push Yan Qingqing, and Yan Qingqing fell on the round platform. For some reason, the round platform cracked, and Yan Qingqing fell into the underground fire cellar. President He was taken aback. Why did he feel a sense of déjà vu? Previously, in the spirit cultivation room of the lower house, after Yan Qingqing was pushed by Xiao Yanping, the round platform also cracked mysteriously, and she fell into it. Why was it like this again? Could it be a coincidence? However, this time was different from the previous time. Regardless of whether it was a coincidence or not, her life was already gone. Xiao Lianxiao could not escape the blame. Xiao Lianxiao had been watching from the crowd. When she heard the guard's words, she immediately refuted, "I didn't push her. It was her own fault for not standing firmly." Furthermore, the round platform is usually very safe, but today, it suddenly broke. It can only be said that she is unlucky and cannot be blamed on others. Xiao Lianxiao did not put the CAI college in her eyes. Let alone a college, she was not afraid of even the chancellor of the branch school. She did not believe that the academy would do anything to her for a student from the lower academy who did not have any background. Many of the surrounding students were on good terms with Xiao Lianxiao. They immediately chimed in, saying that Xiao Lianxiao did not push Yan Qingqing at all. Even if Yan Qingqing was burned to death by the earth fire, it was her own misfortune, it had nothing to do with Xiao Lianxiao. From the bottom of his heart, the Institute of Kai disliked Xiao Lianxiao, a student who relied on her family background to be arrogant. However, he also knew that in the end, this matter would only be settled. After all, the one who died was just a student from the lower academy who did not have any background, moreover, it was an audit student. He could not help but think of the words that Yun Chuzhou had said to him before. The trees wanted to be quiet, but the wind would not stop. She could only use the situation to protect herself. It was not that she liked to cause trouble, but that there would always be trouble that would provoke her. Director Kai couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He said coldly, "Xiao Lianxiao, no matter what, whether or not Yan Qingcheng's death is related to you, you immediately go to the disciplinary office to cooperate with the investigation." Xiao Lianxiao nodded in agreement, but her expression was quite disapproving. It was just a formality. The disciplinary office would only give her a token light punishment. President He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. Because it was obviously not a wise move for a bystander to offend the alliance of 10,000 cities that Xiao Lianxiao was in, let alone that other than the guard. There was no other testimony. However, no one had expected that Bei Yu would actually walk up to Xiao Lianxiao. His cold gaze carried killing intent as he looked at Xiao Lianxiao. For a moment, Xiao Lianxiao felt the blood in her body freeze. She even found it difficult to breathe. She clearly felt that Bei Yu wanted to kill her. Chapter 56-43, The Jade Talisman of Great Compassion. Xiao Lianqiao's face instantly turned pale. If she hadn't gritted her teeth and held on, she wouldn't even be able to stand up. The others were also shocked by Bei Yu's actions. What did Bei Yu want to do? Could it be that he wanted to stand up for that Yan Qingcheng? It didn't make sense. Bei Yu had always been indifferent. That Yan Qingcheng had nothing to do with him. She was just an admirer. Was there a need to go so far? Just as Xiao Lianxiao was about to give up, Bei Yu's cold voice rang out, "Your methods towards others have nothing to do with me, but if you ever involve me in this again in the future, you will definitely not let me off lightly. Whether Yan Qingcheng has the right to pursue me or not, it's only up to me. Who do you think you are?" Being humiliated like this by her beloved, Xiao Lianqiao's face alternated between green and white. She wished she could find a hole to hide in. However, she did not hate Bei Yu. She transferred all of this hatred onto Yan Qingcheng. She made up her mind. No matter what, Yan Qingcheng was already dead. Even if Bei Yu was angry now, he would forget about it in a few days. When the time came, it would not be too late for her to explain it to him. At this moment, Bei Yu looked at the raging earth fire with a heavy gaze and said, "I admit that I am cold-hearted and only want to cultivate. However, I never thought that a silly girl like Yan Qingcheng would risk her life for me. Although she is pursuing me and pestering me, she does not have the intention to harm others. She even formed an alliance with other admirers. This shows that she is above board. I, Bei Yu, hereby swear that if Yan Qingcheng does not die, I will treat her sincerely." "Really? Brother Bei Yu, is what you said true? You are not allowed to go back on your words." Everyone was shocked by this voice, especially President He. He was too familiar with this voice. Could it be that he was hallucinating? President He looked up and saw a little girl walking out from behind the crowd. Who else could it be but Yan Qingcheng? Everyone was dumbfounded. Didn't they say that Yan Qingcheng had fallen into the underground fire cellar? Why was she standing in front of them all of a sudden? Could it be that she had seen a ghost? Bei Yu seemed to have been shocked by Yun Chujia's sudden appearance and did not say a word. Yun Chujio giggled and said, "Brother Bei Yu, why aren't you saying anything? Could it be that what you said just now was all a lie? Didn't you say that as long as I don't die, you'll treat me sincerely?" Bei Yu coughed unnaturally, "Didn't why?" Bei Yu's expression turned cold, "Don't spout nonsense. What's going on?" Hei Xinjiu cursed in her heart. He always threw his face away. He really deserved to be taught a lesson. However, she did not expect Di Baiming to use this opportunity to express his intentions. This would make it easier for the two of them to interact in the future. At this moment, President He and Director Kai also walked over. Both of them were extremely curious as to why Yun Chujio was safe and sound. "Yan Qingcheng, what exactly is going on?" Yun Chujio pointed at Xiao Yanxiao. "President, Director Kai, you have to give me justice. Xiao Yanxiao must have done something to the round table. Otherwise, she wouldn't have invited me here and pushed me into the underground fire cellar on purpose. If I didn't have an ancestral jade talisman of great mercy, I would have died long ago." Everyone. Chapter 56-44 The Jade Talisman of Great Compassion. There's a jade talisman with such a weird name in this world. Yun Chujio glared at Xiao Yanxiao and continued, "Actually, I don't know what the name of the talisman is. Anyway, when my family elders gave it to me, they told me that if I activate the jade talisman in a critical moment, I can teleport out of a certain distance. However, the location of the teleportation is random. I don't know where I will be teleported to. This is my life-saving talisman. Who would have thought that I would waste it like this today? It's all that Xiao Lianqiu's fault. You two have to make a decision for me. I can't be biased just because I'm an audit student of the lower house and she's an official student of the upper house. I can't be biased just because her grandfather is the deputy alliance leader of the Alliance of 10,000 Cities." When President He and Supervisor Kai heard this, they looked at each other. A jade talisman that could teleport. In the Divine Enlightenment continent, there were jade talismans that could teleport, but only talisman masters could successfully draw them. It was very difficult for ordinary people to get their hands on them. If Yan Qingcheng had this kind of teleportation jade talisman, it could explain why she didn't fall into the underground fire cellar. The two of them didn't have any doubts about this, because other than this possibility, there was no other possibility. After all, it was impossible for Yan Qingcheng to escape from the underground fire. Then the question came, how should they deal with Xiao Yanxiao? Xiao Lianjiu looked at Yun Chujio as if she was poisoned. She never thought that Yun Chujio would not die. She had asked Instructor Lu to help poison Yun Chujio. She did not expect Instructor Lu to go crazy. She did not give up, so she decided to go to the underground fire cellar. Although the round table on the underground fire cellar was supported by an array, the round table was not very hard. Its main function was to block the flames. Xiao Yanxiao had tampered with the round table in advance. Everything was planned flawlessly, but she still did not kill Yan Qingcheng. What was even more infuriating was that after this incident, Bei Yu actually had a crush on this ugly freak. It was like trying to steal a chicken, but failing. Just as the CAI department did not know what to do, two guards came over. Kai department, Chancellor Ren wants us to bring Xiao Yanxiao to the disciplinary office for investigation. Director Ren was the person in charge of the alchemy division. Director Kai naturally didn't dare to object and let the two guards take Xiao Yanxiao away. But he knew in his heart that this matter would most likely be lifted high and let go lightly. If Director Ren really wanted to deal with Xiao Yanxiao, he would at least bring the other party to the matter, but he didn't. Yun Chujo also understood this point and couldn't help but sneer in her heart. It didn't matter, she would take revenge on her own. At that time, Xiao Yanxiao deliberately used words to provoke her to get closer to the underground fire cellar, so she had guessed her plan. Originally, she had planned to ignore Xiao Yanxiao, but the small flame had a seizure and passed on to Yun Chujia's mood of wanting to enter the underground fire cellar. Yun Chujo knew the small flame's behavior. If she did not agree, it would definitely fly out and find a way to enter the underground fire cellar on its own. She felt that there was probably no master in this world who was more miserable than her. She was worried about both of them. She didn't look like a master, but more like their servant. Although this guy was complaining in his heart, he still pretended to fall into the underground fire cellar. She had the fire-repelling pearl, so she wasn't afraid of any underground fire. After falling into it, the little flame jumped out of her palm impatiently and went straight to a dancing flame. That flame was different from other earth fires. It was actually a ball of fire marrow, and it looked like it had been around for almost 1,000 years. Presumably, this underground fire cellar had existed for a long time, so it gave birth to this fire marrow. Who would have thought that it would benefit the small flame? Chapter 56-45 The underground fire cellar had limited space, so the fire marrow could not be avoided. In addition, the little flame had been hungry for a long time, so it was quite brave to eat the fire marrow without much effort. After swallowing the fire marrow, the little flame returned to He Xinjia's right palm with satisfaction. He Xinjiu saw that the underground fire cellar had a pipe leading to the alchemy room, so she directly entered the underground fire pipe. She randomly found a branch and climbed to the end. After Go Weiba confirmed that there was no one outside, she went straight out of an alchemy room. After she left the alchemy room, she deliberately made some noise to attract some people's attention before running over. Director Cai's expression was a little unnatural, but he didn't know what to say. He simply changed the topic. President He, didn't you want to talk to Beiyu about something? The change in topic was very stiff. Fortunately, President He was very cooperative. He smiled and said to Beiyu, Student Beiyu, your lecture in the lower house last time was very popular, so I want to invite you to the lower house to lecture again. Don't worry, it won't affect your normal studies. You only need to come to the lower house to lecture on the day of rest. Also, I have already informed President Ren of your alchemy division that you are allowed to leave the upper house's waterside pavilion. Beiyu had already returned to his usual indifferent appearance. Hearing President He's words, he frowned slightly and nodded, all right, then let's do it on the day of rest in 5 days. President He was very satisfied. Although his status was much higher than Bei Yes as a student, there was no teacher who did not like outstanding students. Moreover, one should not bully a young and poor person. Beiyu was a proud son of heaven, his future was limitless, so President He naturally would not put on any airs. It was not a good place to stay for long. President He immediately bade farewell to Supervisor Kai and prepared to return to the lower house. He Xinjiu moved in front of Beiyu and said, coyly, Brother Beiyu, you said that you would treat me sincerely in the future, so you are not allowed to not reply to my voice transmission talisman, nor are you allowed to hook up with other women, and you are also not allowed to pay attention to that Xiao Yanxiao, understand? Beiyu was silent for a long time before he faintly said, okay. Bei Yes, okay, instantly broke the hearts of all the female students present. Such a good cabbage was actually taken over by a pig like Yan Qingcheng. Was there still any justice in this world? They were unwilling to accept this. Also, what did he mean by not replying to her voice transmission talisman in the future? Didn't this mean that Yan Qingchen? Someone slowly recalled that Beiyu had said that Yan Qingcheng had sent him a message, so it turned out that they had already hooked up. Could it be that Beiyu had hooked up with her the last time he went to the lower academy to give lectures? What exactly did this Yan Qingcheng catch Bei Yes' eye? Could it be that Beiyu was blind? He Xinjiu did not care whether these girls were heartbroken or not. At this moment, he had a look of anticipation and shyness on his face. Brother Beiyu, can you give me a kiss? Everyone. Fuck. Shameless. Too shameless. Bei Ye's face stiffened and he spat out 3 words, please have some self-respect. Yun Chujia's mouth twitched in her heart. Pooey. Pretentious. President he could not bear to look at her directly. He coughed and said, it's getting late, let's go. Thus, Hei Xinjiu turned her head 3 times with each step and left under the envious and jealous gazes of the upper academy female students. They thought to themselves, could it be that Bei Yu liked the shameless tone of Yan Qingcheng? Thus, a bold female student shyly walked up to Bei Yu and said, Big brother Bei Yu. Chapter 56-46 The one near the water gets the moon first. Under Bei Ye's cold gaze, the girl did not have the courage to continue. Bei Ye's gaze swept across the crowd indifferently. I already have someone I like. Don't bother me again in the future. After Bei Yu finished speaking, he did not care about the reactions of the people present and directly turned around to leave. In fact, a certain someone was also hesitating before whether or not to reveal his affair with Yun Chujiu. He was afraid that if he did, Xiao Yanxiao and the others would target and frame Yun Chujiu. However, he thought about it. Even if he did not reveal it, with Yun Chujiu's ability to attract hatred, it would probably be the same, attracting hatred. Since that was the case, he might as well take this opportunity to make it public. At least in the future, he would have a legitimate reason to defend her. Of course, he couldn't progress too quickly to avoid arousing suspicion. On the other side, Hei Xinjiu hummed a little tune as she followed behind President He. It was obvious that she was in a good mood. President He cursed in his heart, this little infatuated fool. She had almost fallen into the underground fire cellar and burned to death, yet she didn't take it to heart. On the contrary, because of Bei Ye's slightly better attitude towards her, she became complacent. The 2 of them left the dock and boarded the spirit ship. Only then did President He feel more at ease. The day had been earth-shattering, and the things that had happened were more and more shocking. Moreover, they were all related to the troublemaker in front of him. He did not know if it was her bad luck or if she had deliberately provoked him. Yun Chujiu did not ask about President He's corpse. She was only a small auditing student and did not have the time to care about so much. The next morning, before Hei Xinjiu got out of bed, angry curses were heard from outside the dormitory. Yan Qingcheng, get out here. Yan Qingcheng, are you shameless? You even called yourself the leader of the Northern Imperial Admirers Union. It turns out that you want to get the moon first. You are too shameless. Yan Qingcheng, the Northern Imperial belongs to all of us. You don't have the right to monopolize it. Hei Xinjiu suddenly sat up. Her eyes were full of anger. She randomly put on her clothes and carried little bitch number 1 out of the dormitory. Ding Wenru and the other 2 looked at each other and quickly followed her out. This ancestor wouldn't really chop people up, right? The people outside were the same. Didn't they know that this ancestor's anger was getting more and more serious when he woke up? He actually came here early in the morning to make a ruckus. He was simply cool. Hei Xinjiu opened the courtyard door with her treasured sword in hand. FCK, I've already taken over the Northern U. PV already gotten the moon from the water tower. Who wouldn't be convinced? Come, if you can fight, don't bicker. If anyone isn't convinced, come and fight me one-on-one. Those girls never expected Yun Chujiu to be so arrogant even in their dreams. For a moment, they were stunned. However, very soon, everyone began to clamor again. Among them, Min Dai's voice was the loudest. Yan Qingcheng, what do you mean by this? Don't you have any sense of guilt? Have you forgotten your promise to us? Yun Chujiu glanced at Min Dai. Sense of guilt? I just want to ask, if you have the chance to monopolize the Northern Army, which idiot would give up? Everyone was speechless. To be fair, they would naturally not give up on such a great opportunity. However, the crux of the problem was that the one who got this opportunity was not them, but Yan Qingcheng. I promised you that I would invite Bei Yu over to give a lecture. PM, a man of my word. In 4 days' time, Beiyu will come over to give a lecture. So, what right do you have to criticize me? This is the first and last time. If anyone dares to provoke me again, I'll kill them. After saying that, Yun Chujio chopped the tree at the door in half and shut the door with a loud bang. Chapter 56-47 released a claw Min Dai and the others looked at each other, cursed a few times, and then dispersed. Anyway, didn't Yan Qingqing say it? 4 days later, Beiyu would come over to give a lecture. They wanted to see if the rumors were true. Maybe they were just rumors. It didn't make sense. Beiyu would take a fancy to Yan Qingqing, who was both trash and plain-looking. Yun Chujio returned to the dormitory and sat by the bed without saying a word. Ding Wenru and the other two did not even dare to breathe loudly. Recently, Qingcheng's morning sickness had become more and more serious. Could it be that she had some hidden illness? After a while, Ding Wenru gathered her courage and said, "Qingcheng, hurry up and wash up and eat breakfast. Otherwise, it will be too late for class." Yun Chujio acknowledged and then washed up and ate breakfast. However, her body was still filled with the aura of someone who should not be near her. The 4 of them rushed to the teaching hall. Initially, there were many female students in the teaching hall who were indignant and wanted to take the opportunity to mock and ridicule her. However, when they saw the black-faced Yun Chujio, the words that they wanted to say were stuck in their throats and they did not dare to say it out loud. A moment later, Lecturer Ouyang walked in. After the normal lecture, Lecturer Ouyang glanced at her. "Yan Qingcheng, you did not participate in the previous small test because you were punished. Come up to the stage now and I will take a look at your progress." Although Yun Chujio was still a little angry from waking up, she had basically returned to normal. When she heard Lecturer Ouyang's words, she smiled bitterly in her heart. Progress? How could she have any progress? No matter how she released it, it would definitely release that damned Goei Batsao. But it was not like she did not want to go, so she could only brace herself and walk up to the stage. She could now be considered a popular figure in the lower house. Naturally, it was not good for her to pretend to faint anymore. She could only dawdle and pretend to release the spirit beasts. Of course, she would not release the Goei Batsao. She was prepared to put on an act and try it out. Then, she would use the scare from yesterday as an excuse to brush it off. Therefore, she did not release enough spiritual energy. In this way, the Goei Batsao would not be released. However, she never expected that. The phantom image of a fiery red claw would appear in front of her. If one looked carefully, one of the toes showed signs of materializing. Hei Xinjia's eyes were wide open. What the hell was this? Why did she release a claw? Lecturer Ouyang and the other students were also dumbfounded. Yan Qingcheng's spiritual beast is actually a claw. It's so funny. I've seen trash before, but this is the first time I've seen such trash. She can't even materialize a complete spiritual beast. When others fight, they release wolves, tigers, and leopards, but when she releases a claw. That scene is too beautiful. Lecturer Ouyang coughed, and the crowd finally stopped mocking him. Yan Qingcheng, can you explain what's going on? Yun Chujio thought to herself, damn it, I want to know what's going on too. Why did a claw appear out of nowhere? And it's red? Could it be that she disguised herself as a fire spiritual root and released such a thing? She had no choice but to bite the bullet and say, Lecturer Ouyang, I was frightened yesterday, so I can't release my spiritual power completely. So, I can only release a claw now. Lecturer Ouyang had heard about what happened yesterday. After all, gossip spread the fastest, but he had never heard of anyone who was frightened and could only release part of their spiritual beast. Chapter 56-48 Your whole family has claws. Lecturer Ouyang thought about it again. The world was so big that there were all kinds of strange things. Perhaps he was ignorant and ignorant. Thinking of this, he asked, then what is your spiritual beast? Yun Chujio thought, what is it? It's a pig. It's go wei batsao. Do you believe it? She blinked her eyes and said proudly, my spiritual beast is incredible. I have never seen related records. It is very mighty and majestic. Its body is several times bigger than this hall of teachings. Its mouth can swallow the sun and moon, and its breath can blow the wind and clouds. Before Yun Chuzhou could finish her words, the crowd's boos came from below. They were boasting to no end. They had never seen any related records. There were only a few spiritual beasts, how could there be no records? Moreover, what majestic and majestic, what swallowing the sun and moon, and blowing the wind and clouds? It was simply nonsense. Lecturer Ouyang looked at Yun Chuzhou unhappily. Alright, you can go down first. When you recover in a few days, release your spiritual beast and let me have an eye-opener. Lecturer Ouyang shook his head in his heart. This Yan Qingcheng was too dishonest. Yun Chuzhou laughed awkwardly and returned to her seat dejectedly. After class, this fellow did not bother to deal with the ridicule of others and hurriedly returned to the dormitory. Ding Wenru and the other two didn't feel at ease and followed him back. He Xinjiu didn't avoid them and tried to release the spiritual beast with half of her spiritual power again. The fiery red claw appeared in front of her again. This guy squinted his eyes and looked carefully. He had never seen a demonic beast with such a claw. What the hell was it? Ding Wenru and the other two were also curious. Wasn't King Cheng's spiritual beast that purple Goei Batsao? Why did a red claw appear? Qingcheng, does this claw have any offensive ability? Ding Wenru asked curiously. Yun Chuzhou, what did she mean by this claw? It was as if she had a claw. She was also curious if this claw had any offensive ability, so she went into the courtyard and asked Ding Wenru to release her spiritual fire leopard. After receiving Ding Wenru's order, the spiritual fire leopard's big eyes revealed some disdain and contempt. Wasn't it just a claw? It could easily disperse it. Seeing the smug look of the spiritual fire leopard, He Xinjiu pursed her lips and used her spiritual sense to order the red claw, attack. Kill it with one claw. Unfortunately, the red claw didn't have the slightest reaction, as if it was dead. He Xinjiu's heart instantly turned cold. It seemed that this thing was useless. Why was she so unlucky? She had always summoned some useless things. The red claw did not move, but the spiritual fire leopard suddenly pounced over and opened its bloody mouth to bite the red claw. Yun Chujia's eyes widened, and she still had a sliver of hope in her heart. Perhaps the red claw was accumulating power to stop it from moving. Unfortunately, the spiritual fire leopard had bitten off the red claws in just a few bites. The red claws did not even move, let alone resist. He Xinjiu was not satisfied. She tried a few more times, but every time, the red claws were easily destroyed by the spiritual fire leopard. To be precise, the red claws were still waiting to be beaten every time. They did not even know how to dodge. After a few times, Ding Wenru cut off the spiritual power supply of the fire panther and said with a dry smile, Qingcheng, I guess your claw is not very flexible because it has just materialized. He Xinjiu was so angry that she was twitching. Your claw. Your whole family has claws. Chapter 56-49, Beiyu is here. He Xinjiu tried a few more times. Not to mention attacking, the red claws did not listen to her commands at all. They were too lazy to even move. This guy was simply too lazy to try. This thing was probably a defective product that she had disguised as a spiritual root. It was useless. Instead of wasting time on it, she might as well stabilize the cultivation base that she had just broken through 2 days ago. Moreover, she would be able to see the pretty boy in 4 days. She had to figure out how to spend some time alone with him. As for what to do next time Lecturer Ouyang raised a question, it was not within her consideration. At worst, she would be labeled as a useless person. It did not matter. Soon, it was the day of rest for the 10 Directions Academy. The new students were not allowed to leave their respective academies. The older students could go to the feng shui pavilion, but they had to go through strict registration. They had to return to their respective academies before the clock struck. Even so, the students were looking forward to the day of the retreat. It was a rare time for them to relax, and they could also buy some necessary items. However, today, the students of the lower academy were acting differently, especially the girls. Not a single one of them went out. The reason was simple: Beiyu was coming. Hei Xinjiu saw this grand occasion and felt sour in her heart. It was really unreasonable. The pretty boy's appearance after his disguise was not even half as handsome as before, but it still attracted the covetous eyes of so many fangirls. But what about her? They were both in disguise, but there was not even a single suitor. It was simply a blatant injury. Hence, this fellow asked Ding Wenru, "Why do you like Beiyu? He doesn't look like much, what do you like about him?" Ding Wenru thought that Yun Chuzhou was going to dig up the past, so she quickly proved her innocence. "Qingcheng, Beiyu is your man. I have no romantic feelings for him for a long time. Don't misunderstand. I don't like him even if I like him now." Yun Chuzhou was still very satisfied with Ding Wenru's tactfulness. She smiled and said, "Don't be nervous, I just want to ask. Then tell me, why did you like Beiyu in the past? How is he stronger than others?" Ding Wenru cursed in her heart. "Aren't you asking the obvious? Since you like Beiyu, don't you know how he's stronger than others?" Although she was cursing in her heart, she still said honestly, "Although Beiyu isn't particularly outstanding, his temperament is charming. He's 100 times stronger than that hypocritical Ji Feng. Moreover, Beiyu's appearance is outstanding, and he directly entered the upper house as a freshman. What an..." No matter what, it still meant that the pretty boy's temperament was better than hers. His personal charisma was stronger than hers. TSK. She did not care about these false reputations at all. Otherwise, she could have set up a cold and aloof little beauty persona. What 4 fairies? All of them would have to scram to the side. They would all be dimmed by her boundless radiance. Just as this fellow was consoling himself, someone shouted, "Beiyu is here. Beiyu is here." Yun Chuzhou turned her head and saw Beiyu walking over with President He's escort. This fellow's heart was even more sour. Even President He gave face to this pretty boy. It was really infuriating to compare people. As this fellow's heart was sour, he glanced at Beiyu and did not say a word. A certain honored guest thought that Yun Chuzhou would come over to curry favor with him, and at the very least, she would come over to greet him. Who would have thought that Yun Chuzhou would just glance at him and turn her head away? A certain honored guest's expression became even more indifferent, but it caused the group of women to scream even more crazily. Chapter 56. President He said a few polite words before leaving. However, before he left, he arranged for Qi Huan to escort Beiyu back to the upper house's waterside pavilion. Beiyu began to talk about his cultivation experience. As he spoke, the crowd burst into applause from time to time. Although some people were in love with Beiyu, many people felt that Beiyu's speech was helpful to them. Ding Wenru tugged on Yun Chuzhou's sleeve. "Qingcheng, didn't you say that Beiyu is already your man? Why didn't you greet him just now?" Yun Chuzhou snorted coldly. "He'll come and curry favor with me after he finishes his speech. Just you wait and see." Ding Wenru expressed her doubts. After all, Beiyu had never looked in their direction. An hour later, Beiyu finished his speech and walked down from the stage indifferently. Hei Xinjiu said to Ding Wenru in a smug manner, "Did you see that? Beiyu rolled over obediently, didn't he? TSK, let me tell you, even if he talks to me later, I'll ignore him. I'll show you what it means to be able to control a husband." Ding Wenru was skeptical. Could Beiyu take the initiative to talk to her with that cold and aloof look of his? However, Qingcheng's confident look did not seem like she was lying. However, when she saw that Beiyu was actually walking towards them, she thought to herself, "Oh, looks like what Qingcheng said is true." She really has a way of controlling her husband. He Xingjia's face was even more smug. However, her smug look quickly froze on her face because Beiyu turned a corner and actually walked towards Qi Huan. Guard Qi, let's go. The surrounding girls, such as Min Dai and the others, were all secretly watching. They were instantly delighted. It seemed that rumors were indeed not to be believed. They even said that Beiyu had taken a liking to Yan Qingcheng. Now, it seemed like that was not the case at all. Beiyu did not even say a word to Yan Qingcheng. What did she mean by taking a liking to her? It was simply nonsense. Thus, everyone became even more restless. Min Dai directly squeezed to the front and said, Beiyu, wait a moment. Beiyu, this is an incense bag that I personally sewed. It's for you. Before Beiyu could react, a pair of fair and tender hands took the incense bag and threw it out with a whoosh. Stay away from my man. If a tiger doesn't show its might, do you think him a sick cat? Brother Beiyu, let's go. I'll show you an interesting place. It had to be said that He Xingjiu was flexible. She did not care whether it was embarrassing or not. She grabbed Bei Ye's arm and walked out. The corners of Bei Ye's mouth curled up into an indiscernible arc. He did not break free from Yun Chujia's grip and a. Previously, when she was trying to curry favor with her, Sister Min was the one who had the advantage over Sister Min. Now, she was doing this to her. The others were also furious. Especially when they saw that Beiyu did not break free from Yan Qingcheng's hand, their hearts were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Everyone knew that Beiyu hated it when others got close to him, but now, he allowed Yan Qingcheng to grab his arm. It was obvious that he treated her differently. Even so, everyone was still unwilling and followed behind the two of them. They wanted to see where Yan Qingcheng would bring Beiyu to. Everyone followed the two of them and made many turns before they arrived at the Fire Elements, Self-Reflection Workshop. After He Xingjiu entered, she bared her little white teeth at the group. What's the matter? Do you want to come in and boil salt? Go back to where you belong. Don't disturb me and Brother Beiyu in our intimate conversation. Chapter 56-51 Yan Qingcheng was too fierce after Yun Chujiu finished speaking. She shut the door with a bang, blocking everyone's view. Everyone was furious. However, the self-examination square was not a place that one could enter casually. If one were to barge in, it would be against the rules of the academy. It was really infuriating. He Xingjiu closed the courtyard door and dragged Beiyu into the house where the salt was boiled. Just as she was about to speak, a certain someone hugged her and kissed her. He Xingjiu was confused at first, but when she realized what was going on, she broke free from that person's embrace and said angrily, "You pervert. You took advantage of me the moment we met. Didn't you say you had to respect yourself? Why don't you respect yourself now?" The certain someone selectively forgot the hole he had dug and did not speak. He only looked at He Xingjiu with a doting gaze. He Xingjiu was defeated very quickly and mumbled, "Humph. My lord is magnanimous and will not lower himself to your level. Is there a problem with the voice transmission talisman?" Di Biming nodded. The 10 Directions Academy has a powerful array. Whether it is the Identity Jade token or the voice transmission talisman, as long as one has sufficient authority, they can listen to the content inside. Only a few people know about this. I only found out about this by chance. Yun Chujiu was stunned at first and then scolded, "Bah! This is too shameless. Isn't this an open and above-board surveillance? Fortunately, PM smart. Otherwise, wouldn't I be exposed? By the way, why did you come to the 10 Directions Academy?" Di Biming was about to speak, but his pupils shrank and he said in a low voice, "Someone is coming." He Xingjiu heard him and immediately pounced on Di Biming. Di Biming did not expect Yun Chujiu to come this way. He was also afraid that he would hurt Yun Chujiu if he tried to avoid the fall, so he could only be thrown to the ground by her. "Brother Beiyu, just obey me. Let me give you a kiss, okay?" Yun Chujiu's voice was really loud. Chi Huan, who had just walked to the door, as well as the people who were poking their heads out because the door was opened, all heard her. Everyone could not believe their ears. Fuck, this Yan Qingqing was too shameless. She actually wanted to force herself on Beiyu. She was simply a pervert. Chi Huan was also dumbfounded. He did not know if he should continue walking forward. He could only shout, "Student Beiyu, the upper house has an emergency order. They want you to return to the upper house immediately. The principal wants me to escort you back to the upper house." Hei Xinjiu was so angry that she was twitching. However, there was nothing. This fellow curled the corners of his lips sinisterly. Those flower addicts would definitely be furious to death when they saw this mark. It would be best if they were angered to death directly. Di Baiming was speechless at her childish behavior. He leaned close to her ear and said, "Be careful. I will find another opportunity to meet you. We will talk in detail when the time comes." Yun Chujia's face turned red from the heat. She climbed up from Di Baiming's body and glared at him before opening the door. Chi Huan was stretching his neck and waiting. When he saw Beiyu still lying on the floor, he could not help but gasp. Oh my, this Yan Qingqing is too strong. However, Beiyu's cultivation was much higher than Yan Qingcheng's. Was he resigned to his fate and was pushed down? He probably had to give up halfway. TSK, who would have thought that Beiyu, who looked so cold and aloof, would actually like such a tone that was forcefully suppressed. After Beiyu came out, Chi Huan immediately saw the hickey mark on his neck, and the way he looked at Yun Chuzhou became even more complicated. Chapter 56-52, the colorful tail Beiyu's expression was normal. He said to Chi Huan with a complicated expression, "Let's go." Chi Huan was very impressed. No wonder he was a genius. Looking at his calm attitude, he was indeed different from the rest. The three of them walked to the entrance of the self-examination square. Many people saw the hickey mark on Beiyu's neck at first glance and were instantly stunned. Oh my god! Yan Qingqing actually succeeded. She had actually sullied Beiyu's innocence. This woman, pervert, wolf. Hei Xinjiu, on the other hand, had a smug expression on her face. She held on to Beiyu's arm like a victorious rooster with a colorful tail. She liked it when others could not stand her and could not kill her. Yun Chuzhou sent Beiyu to the entrance of the academy and said reluctantly, "Brother Beiyu, I will find an opportunity to visit you in the upper academy. Remember to send me a voice transmission talisman." Beiyu glanced at the crowd that was following him. His eyes were full of warning as he said indifferently, "Yan, if anyone bullies you, tell me." The female students that were watching from the side were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Such a top-quality cabbage had actually been forcefully taken over by a pig like Yan Qingcheng. If they had known that Beiyu liked to be forced, they would never have been so reserved. Hei Xinjiu replied, coyly, "Brother Beiyu, I got it. Remember to send me a message when you arrive at the upper house." Beiyu nodded and left the lower house with Chi Huan. Hei Xinjiu stood on her tiptoes and watched for a while. When she turned around, she received countless envious looks. A brilliant smile appeared on his face. "There are plenty of good men, so don't think about my man anymore. Otherwise, HMPH. Many people had angry expressions on their faces, but when they thought of Beiyu's cold gaze before he left, they gritted their teeth and endured it. This Yan Qingcheng was a good-for-nothing. After the exams, she might be expelled from school. There was no need for her to break the school rules just because of him. Moreover, if Beiyu really stood up for her, it would not be worth it. Therefore, even though many people looked at Yun Chuzhou unkindly, no one did anything. However, because Yun Chuzhou had gotten together with Beiyu, from that day onwards, she was isolated. Originally, the students who were listening in had a good impression of her, but now, it was all gone. The girls were here because of Beiyu. The boys were here to please the girls, and they also felt that Yun Chuzhou was too unreserved. Yun Chuzhou did not mind. She did not live for others. If everyone liked her, she would die of exhaustion. Moreover, after the big exam, she would enter the middle school. Thinking of the big exam, this guy was a little worried. Although she had benefited from the power of lightning last time, her cultivation was only at the second layer of the divine enlightenment realm. She wasn't sure if she could enter the middle school. It was best to think of a way to get more lightning. Unfortunately, Min Dai and the others didn't pay attention to her now. It was a little difficult to find out information about the spirit department. However, she still got a useful piece of news through Qian Guang and the others. Since the thunder stones in the thunder department's cultivation room were ineffective, the academy decided to lead all the thunder spirit root students to the Thunder Valley to collect the thunder stones. Firstly, it was to store the thunder stones. Secondly, it was also to train the thunder spirit root students. Hei Xinjia's heart suddenly itched. If she could go with them, she might be struck by lightning as she wished. Moreover, she could save up some money. However, now that she had the fire spiritual root, how could she go with them? Chapter 56-53. Pain and happiness. Hei Xinjiu pondered for a while and finally thought of a solution. Early in the morning, Hei Xinjiu strolled to the spirit department. The moment she entered the spirit department, she received a lot of unkind looks, especially from Min Dai and the other ex-members of the Beiyu Admirers Union. They wished they could stab Hei Xinjiu into a sieve with their eyes. If it were anyone else, under such circumstances, they would probably not be able to move an inch. However, Hei Xinjiu did not care at all. She even shamelessly waved her claws to greet everyone. Min Dai and the others were almost angered to death. Yan Qingcheng, what are you doing in our spirit department again? Min Dai asked with a cold face. Yun Chujiu revealed a malicious smile. Little butterfly, I heard that your thunder spirit root people are going to Thunder Valley to collect thunderstrike stones, right? Min Dai was so angry that she almost died. What the hell was little butterfly? She said unhappily, so what if it is? Does it have anything to do with you? Yun Chujiu shrugged her shoulders. Indeed, it doesn't have anything to do with me. I heard that Thunder Valley is very dangerous. Moreover, if you are not careful when collecting thunderstrike stones, you will be struck bald. Little butterfly, you have to be more careful. You are not as good looking as me to begin with. If you are struck bald by the lightning strike stones, the gap between you and me will grow bigger and bigger. Min Dai was so angry that she was twitching. This Yan Qingcheng was really asking for a beating. Moreover, where did she get her confidence from? Her looks could only be considered delicate and pretty. Did she think that she was beautiful? Shameless. At this moment, Yun Chujiu pointed at the other girls with thunder spirit roots and said, and you guys. TSK, you still want to compete with me for the Northern Imperial City? You will all be struck bald by the lightning strike stones. Ha ha ha. Thinking about it, it wasn't a bad thing for me to fall into the pit of lightning stones. If I hadn't fallen into the pit, you guys wouldn't have had the chance to experience it. You guys have to thank me properly. Oh right, I forgot to remind you guys. The students of the upper and middle school are still better off. After all, their cultivation is high. You little scumbags, when the time comes, be smarter and don't really die. That would be too satisfying. Everyone was so angry that they were about to smoke. This Yan Qingcheng was too fucking shameless. She was practically throwing salt on their wounds. Someone scolded, Yan Qingcheng, do you still have a conscience? We treated you well back then, but now you're adding insult to injury. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Yun Chujiu clutched her chest. AI. Do all of you know that there's a comfortable feeling called pain and happiness? I am now. Ha ha ha. Everyone could not take it anymore. They rolled up their sleeves and were about to beat her up. Hei Xinjiu immediately put her hands on her hips. I am the captain of the fire-type law enforcement team. Furthermore, I am now the beloved one of the Northern Army. My status is no longer what it was in the past. If any of you dare to lay a finger on me, I will let my brother Northern Army beat you to death. Although everyone was not afraid of her position as the captain of the law enforcement team, they were afraid that the Northern Army would take revenge if they really hurt her, so they did not dare to act rashly. Seeing that they did not dare to make a move, Yun Chujo became even more arrogant. You guys don't dare to make a move, right? Are you holding your breath? I love to see how you guys can't kill me even though you don't like me. Alright, don't argue with me anymore. Just think about the upcoming training. I'm still waiting to see your bald lady. Ha ha ha. The crowd was beyond furious. If resentment could kill, Hei Shinjo would have died thousands of times. Chapter 56-54 Spirit Department Petition. Hei Shinjo curled her lips and said, I know you hate me, but so what? I have a fire spirit root, and I will not go with you no matter what. Do you think it's infuriating? Ha ha ha. The guy grimaced, made a face, and then jumped away. Min Dai and the others looked at Yun Chujia's smug back and were so angry that they gritted their teeth and cursed. I'm so angry, this bitch. This is a blatant provocation. It's so hateful that we didn't dare to disobey the Academy's rules. Otherwise, we would have beaten her until her teeth were all over the ground. I've never seen such a shameless person. Previously, she used some Northern Imperial Admirer alliance to trick us, and now she's adding insult to injury. She's really too shameless. Yeah, this fellow is an ingrate. It's a good thing that we treated her so well before and even brought her to the cultivation room to gain experience. If she hadn't insisted on going in, Xiao Yanping wouldn't have pushed her. If Xiao Yanping hadn't pushed her, she wouldn't have fallen into the pit. If she hadn't fallen into the pit, the lightning strike stone wouldn't have lost its effect. We wouldn't have had to go to the Thunder Valley to collect the lightning strike stone, so, she's the main culprit. Min Dai heard everyone's curses and her heart moved. She said to everyone, I've thought of an idea. Even though Yan Qingqing has a fire spirit root, she is the main culprit behind the failure of the lightning strike stone. There is no reason for her to stay out of this. Let's go and look for the sect master now and ask Yan Qingqing to follow us to Thunder Valley for the trial. When the time comes, we will have to take revenge. Wouldn't that be wonderful? When the others heard this, they were instantly delighted and felt that this suggestion was not bad. Although the main responsibility for the failure of the lightning strike stone lay with Xiao Yanping, Yan Qingqing also had to bear some responsibility. As long as they grasped this point, Sect Master Yuan might agree to bring Yan Qingqing along for the trial. Everyone hit it off and persuaded many students with lightning spirit roots to carry banners and run outside of Sect Master Yuan's study room to petition. Severely punish the main culprit of the failure of the lightning strike stone, Yan Qingqing. Request Yan Qingqing to join the trial in the Thunder Valley. If Yan Qingqing doesn't go to the trial in the Thunder Valley, the heavens will not tolerate it. Sect Master Yuan's face was completely dumbfounded. How did this suddenly involve that Yan Qingqing? Min Dai acted as the representative and said, Sect Master, if Yan Qingqing didn't insist on entering the cultivation room, the series of events that happened afterward wouldn't have happened. So, it's hard for her to escape the blame for the failure of the lightning strike stone. If we don't punish her a little, and teach others a lesson, how will our spirit faculty be able to establish a foothold in the lower house? Therefore, I implore the sect master to agree to our request and let Yan Qingqing accompany us to participate in the Thunderbolt Canyon trial. Sect Master Yuan frowned. Nonsense. This time, all the students going to the Thunderbolt Canyon trial are Thunder-type Spirit Root students. Yan Qingqing, a Fire-type Spirit Root, simply doesn't meet the requirements. Min Dai and the others looked at each other and then sat cross-legged on the ground. It was as if they wouldn't leave if Sect Master Yuan didn't agree. Sect Master Yuan was so angry that he was twitching. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Academy's rules? Everyone was speechless. They hated Yan Qingqing to death now. Now that there was a ready-made opportunity for revenge in front of them, how could they give up? When they thought about how Yan Qingqing looked like when she learned that she was going to follow them to the Thunder Valley, they suddenly felt that everything was worth it. If the law did not punish the masses, they did not believe that Sect Master Yuan would really punish them. Moreover, there were not many spirits in the first place, so Sect Master Yuan could not bear to punish them. Otherwise, Xiao Lianping would not have only been given a warning last time. You must also participate in chapter 56-55. Sure enough, when Sect Master Yuan saw that everyone was determined to have Yan Qingqing follow them to the Thunder Valley, he had no choice but to compromise. Yan Qingqing is not a spirit, after all. I need to discuss this with President He and Sect Master Zhen. You guys can go back first. Min Dai and the others didn't move. It was obvious that they wouldn't leave this place until they got the final result. Sect Master Yuan was both angry and helpless. He vented his anger on the culprit, Yan Qingqing. He had already heard from his trusted aides that Yan Qingqing had come over to provoke him this morning. He cursed in his heart. This Yan Qingqing was simply a troublemaker. She had come over to provoke him for no reason. Wasn't she making herself uncomfortable? She had hooked up with Bei Yu, so she had gone overboard. Sect Master Yuan met with President He angrily and told him everything. President He was already having a fit. Whenever he heard about Yan Qingqing, his head would ache. He had only been quiet for 2 days. How did he end up causing trouble again? He was truly a troublemaker. Among the major departments in the lower house, the spirit department was the most difficult to deal with. To a certain extent, the spirit department was superior to the other departments. The reason was very simple. Unless the spirit department students were courting death, they could all enter the middle house. Some of them would even end up in the upper house. President He advised, Sect Master Yuan, Yan Qingqing has a fire spirit root. If she goes with you, she will inevitably become a burden. I think we should forget about this matter. You should properly appease the spirit faculty students. Sect Master Yuan smiled bitterly, President, if I can appease her, I won't come looking for you. It's just that Yan Qingqing is too good at drawing hatred. Those students are about to go crazy from her anger. President He. With no other choice, President He had no choice but to find Sect Master Zhen and tell him everything. Sect Master Zhen was dumbfounded. Was this Yan Qingqing idle? Why did she go to the spirit faculty to provoke them? Was she crazy? However, when he thought about how those students had been ostracizing Yan Qingqing recently, it was normal for her to add insult to injury. However, what should he do now that he had stirred up a hornet's nest? Although Sect Master Zhen didn't like Yun Chujiu, she was still a student of the fire faculty, so she firmly disagreed at the beginning and almost quarreled with Sect Master Yuan. President He quickly smoothed things over. All right, stop quarreling. Both of you are seeking common ground for the sake of your students. You will eventually come up with a solution. Sect Master Zhen and Sect Master Yuan didn't have any conflicts to begin with. It was just that they were in a rush to speak, so the two of them had a way out. President He sighed and said, Sigh, Sect Master Zhen, the students of the spirit faculty are now in a frenzy. If we don't let Yan Qingqing go, it might not be easy to end things. For the sake of the big picture, we should let Yan Qingqing go. Actually, the Thunder Valley isn't that scary. Besides, there are also lecturers accompanying us. There won't be any danger. Sect Master Zhen couldn't argue with him, so he could only nod his head in agreement. Sect Master Yuan, let me be frank. I'll leave Yan Qingqing's safety to you. If anything happens to her, humph. Sect Master Yuan also knew that this matter was more or less in the wrong, so he said, Don't worry about that. No matter how bad I am, I can still protect a little girl like her. Hearing his words, Sect Master Zhen didn't say anything else. After returning to his own courtyard, he called He Xinjiu over. Sect Master Jin first asked a few questions about the law enforcement team, then changed the topic, that, Yan Qingcheng, because the spirit element lightning strike stone's failure is related to you, you have to participate in the Thunder Canyon trial this time. Chapter 56-56. I am your personal student. Yun Chujia's heart bloomed like 1,000 peach blossoms, and the little person in her heart was about to collapse from laughter. Whatever came to her mind, those fools from the spirit faculty were really obedient. This fellow suppressed the urge to laugh maniacally, and his face revealed an expression of disbelief. Sect Master, what did you say? Did I hear wrongly? You want me to participate in the trial of Thunder Canyon? I have a fire spirit root. Sect Master Jin braced himself and said, this is a request made by a spirit department student. Sect Master Yuan and President, he can't do anything about it. Who asked you to go to the spirit department to provoke them? Yun Chujia's eyes widened and she took 2 steps back. Sect Master, a spirit department student is a student. Am I not a student? I am your personal student. Are you going to watch me die? Sect Master, I am a useless snack of the 9th level spirit extinguisher. There is no one in the entire lower house who is more useless than me. Do you really have the heart to let me participate in the trial? Aren't you afraid that I will die there? Sect Master Zhen. You don't have to worry too much. Sect Master Yuan will also go. I have already informed him that he will protect you. Yun Chujia's eyes reddened and she said sobbingly, must I go? Sob so be, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have gone to the spirit department to show off. Is it still too late for me to apologize to those little bastards of the spirit department? The corners of Sect Master Zhen's eyes twitched violently as he thought to himself, is it all over with just a slap? He had heard that those spirit department students were going to be driven mad by this fellow. Just a few words of apology. Woo-woo, Sect Master, PM such a good for nothing. Even with Sect Master Yuan protecting me, I'm afraid I won't be able to live. I haven't lived long enough. PM's still a flower bud. My precious spiritual artifact was damaged last time, and even the jade talisman of great compassion of the emergency order is gone. I have no way to live. Rather than die in the Thunder Valley, I might as well hang myself at your door. At least I'll be able to come back and visit you more often in the future. Sect Master Zhen. You better stay as far away from me as possible. In the end, Sect Master Zhen really couldn't stand this guy's crying skill, so she took out a jade talisman and handed it to her. This is a shield talisman for level 3 of the Heaven Realm. If you run into any danger, it can help you block some of the attacks after you activate it. Yun Chuzhou had learned some general knowledge about the Divine Enlightenment continent. There were 3 major levels of jade talismans in the Khan. Each level was divided into 9 levels. Immortal level jade talismans were only available to a few people. For example, teleportation talismans belonged to the immortal level jade talismans. For ordinary people, heaven level jade talismans were already very rare, let alone 3. It seemed that old man Jin treated her well. Yun Chuzhou immediately wiped her tears and said, Sect Master, you are so kind to me. I will definitely thank you for your great kindness in the future. But, do you only have one? Good things come in pairs. Give me another one. Does the jade talisman seal cost nothing? Did his jade talisman seal come from a strong wind? In the end, Sect Master Zhen gave Yun Chuzhou another shield talisman out of heartache. Hei Xinjiu left Sect Master Zhen's study room sobbing and found President He while wiping her tears. This guy did the same thing. After howling for a while, he got 2 heaven grade level 4 galloping talismans from President He. Then, this fellow wailed all the way back to the dormitory. That miserable wail simply made everyone too damn relieved. This Yan Qingqing also had such a day. She deserved it. She deserved it. Chapter 56-57, The Doormat. When the spirits, Min Dai, and the others heard about it, they felt that their anger had been slightly alleviated. Humph, this was just the beginning. They would teach her a lesson when they went to the Thunder Valley. On the other side, Ding Wenru and the others saw He Xinjiu running in with tears streaming down her face. They were all dumbfounded. Just as they were about to ask her what had happened, they saw He Xinjiu laughing so hard that she was about to roll on the ground. Ding Wenru and the others were even more confused. Had she gone mad? He Xinjiu laughed for a while before saying, "Let me tell you a piece of good news. In a few days, I will be going to the Thunder Valley with the spirit tribe. However, in order to avoid being exposed, I will pretend to be worried outside. When the time comes, cooperate with me. Don't be exposed." Ding Wenru and the others looked at each other. Was going to the Thunder Valley a good thing? Furthermore, she had a fire spirit root. Ah, no, this fellow had a heavenly lightning spirit root. No wonder she was so happy. But why would the academy let her go with them? Yun Chuzhou immediately recounted the incident in a smug manner. Ding Wenru and the other two looked at each other. How despicable. Those spirit faculty members might still be elated. Who would have thought that all of this was a trap set by this fellow before them? Fortunately, they were in cahoots with this guy. Otherwise, they would have to help her count the money if they were sold. Qingcheng, although all of this was planned by you, don't be careless. It was said that the Thunder Valley was very dangerous. Moreover, you were now a thorn in the eyes of many female students. It was inevitable that someone would do something small, so it was better to be cautious. Qin Linglong instructed. Yun Chuzhou nodded. Yes, I will be careful. You guys should also be more cautious in the academy to avoid being exploited. If you encounter a problem that you really can't solve, try to delay it for a while and wait for me to come back. In the next 2 days, He Xinjiu appeared in front of the others with a sad face and occasionally wiped her tears. She was as miserable as she could be, which made those female students who adored the Northern Yu feel quite relieved. Humph. Yan Qingcheng, you also have this day. This is karma. Soon, it was time to set off. He Xinjiu rushed to the meeting place with a hopeless expression. Min Dai and the others saw that she looked like she couldn't live anymore and felt refreshed. They wanted to throw their heads back and laugh 3 times. Min Dai walked in front of Yun Chuzhou and said with a fake smile, "Yo, Yan Qingcheng, why are you here? Aren't you a fire spirit root? Why? Are you going to follow us to Thunder Valley?" A good-for-nothing like you would not only be struck bald, but you might not even be able to keep your life. How pitiful. Someone immediately echoed, "That's right, Yan Qingcheng, aren't you full of bad ideas? Think of a way not to go. Yan Qingcheng, good and evil will be repaid in the end. You finally got your retribution. When we reach the Thunder Valley, you will suffer. Why don't you kneel down and beg us? Maybe we will be kinder and save your life." Yun Chuzhou pursed her lips tightly. Her eyes were red and she looked like a doormat. When everyone saw her like this, they immediately felt that the sky had turned blue and the clouds had turned white. It was simply too fucking satisfying. Min Dai said to everyone, "The sect master is coming soon. We will let her go for now. Anyway, there is still a long way to go." Only then did everyone let He Xinjiu go for now. When Sect Master Yuan arrived, they saw Yun Chuzhou standing alone at the side with red eyes like a frightened little rabbit. Chapter 56-58, Are you Yan Qingcheng? Sect Master Yuan suddenly felt a little pity for her. Seeing that she was wearing fire element clothing, he said to Min Dai, "Lend Yun Chuzhou a set of spirit element clothing so that we won't have to waste our breath when we gather." Although Min Dai didn't petition, she still took out her own set of academy clothing and handed it to Yun Chuzhou. Sect Master Yuan said some things to take note of before leading everyone to the dock. On the way, Yun Chuzhou was naturally the one who was ostracized again. She was pushed to the back of the line. This fellow sniffed and followed along with an aggrieved expression. Min Dai and the others turned their heads to look at her from time to time. Their eyes were filled with schadenfreude. If it was not because of Sect Master Yuan, they would definitely ridicule her. After arriving at the dock, they waited for about 15 minutes before a spirit ship sailed over from afar. After boarding the ship, a few people immediately came over to greet Sect Master Yuan. However, there was a middle-aged man who stood at the side and didn't say anything. The expression on his face was quite arrogant. Sect Master Yuan's expression immediately became a little ugly. That middle-aged man was the upper house's Spirit Energy Branch's Vice Director Xiaofu. He would usually teach Thunder-type students martial arts. Although strictly speaking, Vice Director Xiaofu's position in the upper house was higher than Sect Master Yuan's, but Sect Master Yuan's age and seniority were there after all, so Vice Director Xiaofu's actions were a bit too much. Sect Master Hao of the Middle House's Spirit Energy Department saw that the situation was a bit awkward, so he quickly said, "Vice Director Xiaofu, didn't you just say that Sect Master Yuan was here? Why is he here, and we beat him?" Vice Director Xiaofu then said to Sect Master Yuan indifferently, "Since everyone is here, let's set off immediately." Sect Master Yuan was quite dissatisfied with Vice Director Xiaofu's commanding tone, but he was shrewd after all. Although he was displeased, he didn't say anything. The next morning, everyone went ashore and took a flying spirit tool to the Thunder Valley. In the cabin, the upper house, the middle house, and the lower house were all gathered together. The lower house had the most people, the middle house was next, and the upper house had the least people. Although the upper house had fewer people, they were the most imposing, and their faces were full of pride. The people in the middle house were slightly better, but they could not help but look at the people in the lower house with contempt. Although the people in the lower house had expected this, they were also blessed by the heavens in the lower house, so they could not help but find it difficult to AC. Fortunately, they also had someone they despised, and that was Joe, who only ate and slept. Eat, eat, eat. You only know how to eat all day long. Yan Qingcheng, could it be that you're afraid of being struck to death by lightning when you arrive at the shocking Thunder Canyon, so you eat with all your might? Min Dai glared at He Xinjiu, who was chewing on the chicken drumstick, and said fiercely. Yun Chujiu immediately shivered. Her eyes were red, and she continued to chew on the chicken drumstick. Min Dai saw her like this and glared at her again. She did not say anything. However, with her clamor, many people from the upper house and the middle house looked over. To be more precise, their gazes fell on Yun Chujiu. A phoenix-eyed woman from the middle house pointed sharply at Yun Chujiu and said, "Hey, your name is Yan Qingcheng. Are you the one who shamelessly clung onto the Northern Imperial Army and refused to let go of Yan Qingcheng?" Yun Chujiu shivered again and hid behind Min Dai. "Sister Min, save me. Min Dai, you fucking shameless. Did you forget calling me little butterfly? Now that you have a favor to ask of me, do you know how to call me Sister Min?" Min Dai mercilessly dodged to the side and exposed He Xinjiu. Chapter 56-59 The frightened little quail. When the phoenix-eyed woman saw Yun Chujiu in such a state, she immediately determined that she was Yan Qingcheng. She frowned and said, "Didn't you say that you're a good-for-nothing with a fire spirit root? Why are you here?" Yun Chujiu lowered her eyes and timidly bent her body, not saying a word. "Are you deaf or mute? Didn't you hear me asking you a question? Why did you come along?" The phoenix-eyed woman raised her voice and asked. Yun Chujiu remained silent like a frightened little quail. The phoenix eye's anger was not light. She pointed at Min Dai and said, "Tell me, is she Yan Qingcheng? Why is she here?" Min Dai was quite dissatisfied with the phoenix eye's bossy attitude, but she did not dare to offend her. She could only say, "Yes, she is Yan Qingcheng. She is here because she is related to the failure of the lightning strike stone in our cultivation room, so she was punished to come here to collect the lightning strike stone." Dan Fengyan was stunned at first before she continued to ridicule, "The lower house is the lower house. Her brain is just not clear. She actually brought along such a burden. However, it's good that she died in the Lightning Valley. Otherwise, she would shamelessly pester Bei Yu." Dan Fengyan's words clearly resonated with many people. Those people let out sneers as if they had already seen the scene of Yun Chujo being struck to death by lightning. Min Dai and the others' expressions were not very good. Although the Red Phoenix I was scolding Yun Chujo, his words also belittled the lower house. The Red Phoenix I and the others mocked and ridiculed her for a while before temporarily letting Yun Chujo go. Yun Chujo timidly retreated to the corner and did not say a word. Min Dai glared at her fiercely and then said in a low voice, "Where's your arrogance from before? Why have you become a punching bag now?" Yun Chujo looked at Min Dai carefully and then said weakly, "Sister Min, I'm afraid of being struck by lightning. Can you plead with the dean and let me go back to the academy?" Min Dai snorted coldly. "Give up on that idea. Let's not talk about whether PLL help you or not. Even if I do, the dean won't let you go back to the academy alone." Yun Chujo pursed her lips and looked like she was about to cry. Min Dai felt even more annoyed when she saw her like this. She simply walked to the side and ignored her. Hei Shinjo saw that she had left and took out a handful of melon seeds. Her eyes were red as she munched on the melon seeds. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. She had to keep a low profile now that she did not have a proper name. Otherwise, if some little bitch used her spiritual root to argue, it would be too much of a loss if she was sent back. That was why she had repeatedly shown weakness and allowed the spirit department, the middle and upper houses to do whatever they wanted. She was not afraid of settling scores. She had all these people in her mind. Let's wait and see. Just as Yun Chujo was thinking about it, she felt a malicious gaze. She looked up and saw Xiao Yinping staring at her with a vicious expression. Yun Chujo shivered and lowered her head. Xiao Yinping revealed a cold smile. "Yan Qingcheng, the Thunder Valley is where you will die." After he found out that Yun Chujo was going to the Thunder Valley, he immediately told this news to Xiao Yanxiao. Xiao Yanxiao told him that the person leading the team this time was her second uncle, Director Xiaofu of the Upper Academy's Spirit Energy Branch. She had already informed him to let Xiao Yinping do whatever he wanted. Director Xiaofu would be there to support him. Xiao Yinping hated Yun Chujo because of the lightning strike stone incident last time. Even if Xiao Yanxiao didn't mention it, he planned to find a way to kill Yun Chujo to take revenge this time. Now that he had backing, he naturally had more confidence. Chapter 5660 revealed the fox's tail from Xiao Lianping's point of view. Killing Yun Chujo was as easy as flipping his hand. After all, there were only 8 lecturers in total. It was impossible for him to take care of so many students. He could simply find an opportunity to succeed. Moreover, he could also see that more than 90% of the girls here did not like this Yan Qingcheng. Even if someone saw her, they would not say anything. Therefore, he only needed to find the right time to kill this trash. The Thunder Valley was not very far from the 10-sided waterside pavilion. 3 days later, the Flying Spirit Tool arrived at the Thunder Valley. After everyone got off the Flying Spirit Tool, they lined up. Vice Sect Master Xiao swept a glance at everyone and his gaze fell on Yun Chujo. He frowned and said, "Sect Master Yuan, how can your lower house have a student with such low spiritual power? Is she also a thunder spirit root?" Sect Master Yuan suppressed the displeasure in his heart and said indifferently, "She has a fire spirit root. The failure of the thunder strike stone this time is related to her, so I brought her here to make up for it." Vice Director Xiaofu said with a hint of ridicule, "She's just a piece of trash, and you want to make up for it? I think she's a burden. If she dies in there, Sect Master Yuan won't be able to regret it later." Sect Master Yuan had long disliked Vice Director Xiaofu, so he said stiffly, "I'll protect her. She'll be fine." Vice Director Xiaofu ate a soft nail, and anger flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, "Since you insist, then I have nothing to say. Let's go into the valley." Immediately, everyone entered the Thunder Valley. Yun Chujo sized up the Thunder Valley as she walked. There was a wide river in the middle of the valley. Because there was no wind, the river was very calm, but there was no wind or waves. Both sides of the river were lush and green, and there were no traces of lightning. The people from the Academy of 10 Directions walked along the south bank from east to west. It was said that there was a shallow beach hundreds of miles away. From there, they could reach the north bank of the river, and the north bank was the main source of the lightning stone. Bai Li and Yun Chuzhou walked along the south bank. As for why they did not cross the river, it looked calm, but it was dangerous. It was said that there was a huge whirlpool in the river, and if they were not careful, they would die. Yun Chuzhou thought about what she knew and followed the group. It was not easy to walk on the road. The ground was covered with vegetation, and there were many broken stones. Therefore, when it was dark, the group had only covered half of the distance. Director Xiaofu ordered the group to set up camp on the spot and continue their journey after daybreak. The group lit a bonfire and sat on the ground in groups of 2 or 3. They talked and ate dinner at the same time. He Xinjiu was more embarrassed. No one paid attention to her. They looked as if they were letting her fend for herself. They even pointed at her from time to time. He Xinjiu did not care about this at all. She built a bonfire and started to roast meat happily. Min Dai saw this and curled her lips. Yan Qingcheng, you are really big-hearted. You might be struck by lightning very soon and you are still in the mood to roast meat. Yun Chuzhou was not as timid as before. She glanced at her and said indifferently, "It's none of your business. Get lost." Min Dai was instantly stunned and then said angrily, "Yan Qingcheng, have you eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's guts? How dare you talk to me like this? Aren't you afraid that I will teach you a lesson? I've already looked up to you since PM willing to talk to you. Don't disturb my barbecue, or else I'll kill you." Yun Chuzhou said faintly as she roasted the meat. Now that they had already entered the Thunder Valley, her little white rabbit's fox tail could naturally be exposed. Chapter 56-61. Whatever. When the girls beside Min Dai saw this, they immediately said angrily, "Yan Qingcheng, are you itching for a fight? This is the Thunder Valley. If you obediently apologize to Min Dai, we might be able to take care of you if you run into danger. If you are stubborn, we won't care about you even if you are struck to death by lightning." Yun Chuzhou didn't even lift her eyelids and said indifferently, "Whatever." When those girls saw Yun Chuzhou's indifferent attitude, they were naturally furious. One of them sneered and said, "Ah, I know. During the day, Sect Master Yuan said that he would take care of you, so you think you have a backer, don't you? You're really naive. We have a total of 700 to 800 people, and there are only 8 lecturers. How can we take care of her? Since she is courting death, why should we care about her? Let the heavenly lightning strike her a few times and she will know her limits." Min Dai and the others felt that what she said made sense. They mocked her a few times and ignored Yun Chuzhou. But Face, who was in Yun Chuzhou's spirit beast bag, curled his lips. A bunch of stupid humans. Let the heavenly lightning strike her a few times and she will know her limits. If the black-hearted little girl was struck by the heavenly lightning a few times, they would be the ones who would know her limits. After Yun Chuzhou finished roasting the meat, she did not eat it. Instead, she eagerly carried the roasted meat to Sect Master Yuan and said, "Sect Master Yuan, I've roasted some meat. Have a taste." He Xinjiu intentionally removed the word Sect Master Yuan from Sect Master Yuan's name, unconsciously bringing them closer to each other. At this moment, Sect Master Hao and the others from the Middle Scope's Spirit Energy branch were surrounding Deputy Sect Master Xiao and exchanging pleasantries. On the other hand, Sect Master Yuan could not bear to see Deputy Sect Master Xiao meditating alone at the side. Seeing Yun Chuzhou come over, he was a little touched. Humans were all emotional creatures. He was more or less ostracized by the other lecturers. Seeing that Yun Chuzhou was so considerate, his face couldn't help but ease up a little. He had already taken the fasting pill. He wanted to refuse, but seeing Yun Chuzhou's expectant eyes and the aroma of the roasted meat, he picked up a skewer and started eating. Hei Xinjiu also picked up a skewer and started eating. Then, she said, Sect Master Yuan, you are very knowledgeable. Tell me about this Thunder Valley so that I don't accidentally lose my life. Sect Master Yuan saw the worship on Yunchujia's face. Although he didn't talk much usually, he still chatted with Yunchujio. When Min Dai and the others saw this scene, they were all filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. The Sect Master Yuan was actually so kind and amiable to Yan Qingcheng. Could it be that he was that greedy? A few skewers of barbecued meat were enough to bribe him? They were the real students of the spirit faculty. That Yan Qingcheng was from the fire faculty. Min Dai couldn't take it anymore. She simply thickened her skin and went over, wanting to hear what Sect Master Yuan was saying. It would be a waste if she didn't listen. When the other students saw that someone had taken the lead and surrounded them, they would occasionally raise their own questions. For a moment, they laughed and cheered, dispelling a trace of disappointment that had been lingering in Sect Master Yuan's heart. When he saw the students' inquisitive gazes, he sighed in his heart. It didn't matter if it was the upper house or the lower house. In any case, they were all teaching and educating people. There was no need to compare themselves with others. When Deputy Director Xiaofu saw that the lower house was talking and laughing merrily, a trace of contempt flashed across his eyes. They were just a bunch of trash. The next evening, the group arrived at a shallow beach. The width of the river here was only 1/3 of the other places. Moreover, the river water was so clear that one could see the bottom. It was the best choice to lead to the north bank. Even so, the lecturers still urged the students to be more careful and not to be careless. Chapter 56-62 Rocks if they had to cross the river one by one. Then the question of who would be the first to cross the river in the 3 courtyards was right in front of them. Vice Sect Master Xiao glanced at Sect Master Yuan and said, the lower house will go first. Sect Master Yuan's face darkened slightly. Even a fool would know that the person who went first was testing the waters. If there was any danger, he would be the first to bear the brunt. However, he had no way to refuse. He could only say to the people of the lower house with a sullen face, all of you follow behind me. 5 people in a group, be on high alert. Seeing that Sect Master Yuan was actually taking the lead, the spirits immediately felt a warmth in their hearts and nodded in agreement. Sect Master Yuan immediately walked into the river and headed towards the north bank. Even though he had been to the Thunder Valley several times before, and even though the Thunder Valley had the lowest risk factor among the several places that produce thunder-striking stones, he still did not dare to be careless. When the Spirit Department students saw that Sect Master Yuan was acting like this, their hearts were in their throats, and they carefully followed Sect Master Yuan toward the north bank. After a quarter of an hour, all the Spirit Department students from the lower house had arrived at the north bank, and nothing unexpected happened. Seeing this, the students from the upper house and the middle house heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts, and they even showed a hint of disdain. Those trash from the lower house were really not presentable. They could have passed in a quarter of an hour, yet they were still so paranoid and delayed for such a long time. Therefore, when they went into the water, they were much more relaxed than the students from the lower school. Some even had the leisure to look around. One of the students from the middle school saw a stone under his feet that was emitting a lustrous light. He could not help but feel delighted and bent down to pick up the stone. However, when his hand touched the stone, he felt a sharp pain in his finger, as if someone had pricked it with a needle. He could not help but let out a scream. He stood up straight and looked down to see that his right hand had swelled up and quickly spread to his entire right arm. The others did not know what had happened. Their first reaction was to run frantically towards the north bank. For a moment, it was a mess. As the people were all crowded together, some people were pushed to the side. Then, there was a series of screams. There was actually someone who was sucked into the vortex that suddenly appeared next to him. What was even more shocking was that the injured student suddenly went crazy. He grabbed a student who was passy. At the critical moment, Director Xiaofu slapped the crazy student. The student flew like a kite with a broken string to the surface of the river in the distance. Then, he was swallowed by the vortex and disappeared. Move forward in order. Whoever is more crowded will be severely punished. Director Xiaofu shouted sternly. The students were greatly frightened by this series of unexpected events. They did not dare to act recklessly again. They continued to move forward with fear and trepidation. Finally, they arrived at the north bank. It was precisely because that male student touched a rock that 3 students died in an instant. Other than that male student, the other 2 were pushed into the river by the crowd and were swallowed by the whirlpool. Everyone immediately understood the terror of the Thunderbolt Valley. Initially, they thought that it was just a rumor and there was no danger. Now, it was simply extremely dangerous. A student used his courage to ask a lecturer about the situation of the boy. The lecturer sighed and said, "That's not a rock at all, but a sea beast unique to this river. It disguises itself as a rock and deceives people to touch it. After being pricked by its poisonous thorns, the venom will enter the body through the wound, and then the whole person will go crazy. The most terrifying thing is that the person who was bitten by it will also have the same symptoms as him. There is no antidote for that poison, so Vice Director Zaifa's prompt decision to kill him just now was the best solution." Chapter 56-63 Thunder-Devouring Mushroom. After everyone heard the lecturer's reply, they felt a chill run down their spines. They all put away their previous insouciance and became nervous. Director Zaifa's expression was not too good. Although there would be casualties in every trial, he had lost 3 students before anything happened. He was a little careless. What made him even more uneasy was that there was not a single casualty in the lower house. Didn't this mean that he was not as good as that old thing? Therefore, he ordered the crowd to not say anything and set up camp on the spot. The crowd did not dare to discuss further. They lit a bonfire and set up camp. Although the night was getting darker, many students did not dare to sleep. It was because the incident during the day had given them too much of a shock. Who knew if something terrible would happen in the middle of the night? On the other hand, Hei Xinjiu took out a modified all-purpose tent and slept soundly inside. When Min Dai and the others saw this, they secretly scolded her for being heartless. The few of them gathered together to boost their courage before they barely fell asleep. Nothing unexpected happened during the night. The next morning, everyone continued on their journey. Yun Chujiu looked around as she walked. Previously, she could not see clearly through the river. Now that she was closer, she realized that there were many charred rocks on the north bank under the cover of the vegetation. They must have been struck by lightning. According to Sect Master Yuan, the formation of a lightning strike rock required the right time and place. Therefore, even if it was a rock of the same material, a large portion of it couldn't be turned into a lightning strike rock. 4 hours later, the lecturer who led the way pushed aside the lush vegetation on the side of the mountain. Everyone was shocked to find that there was actually a gap there. Everyone followed the lecturer and continued to move forward. Yun Chujiu thought to herself that if she hadn't followed these people, she wouldn't have been able to find the location of the lightning strike rock. This was too secretive. After everyone entered the gap, they realized that the deeper they went, the wider the path became. The vegetation on the ground was also becoming less and less. They could occasionally see charred black rocks on the ground. Everyone was faintly excited. They estimated that they would be able to find the lightning strike stone very soon. Hei Xinjiu was also very excited. Little babies, their elder sister is here. After walking for another hour, faint crackling sounds could be heard. Everyone's spirits were lifted. This was the sound when the lightning. Sure enough, a moment later, everyone saw a few pieces of lightning stones scattered on the ground in front of them, releasing the power of lightning. Immediately, a student ran over impatiently. Before the instructor leading the way could stop him, the student had already run to the front. At this moment, countless mycelium extended from the ground and tightly wrapped around the student, like a huge cocoon. Director Xiophas' face was ashen. Anyone who dares to act on their own will be killed without mercy. Everyone immediately shivered. They were also a little restless just now. After all, the lightning strike stones were too tempting. According to the Academy's rules, they only needed to hand in the required number of lightning strike stones. The rest could all be owned by individuals. How could they not be excited? The instructor who led the way sighed. Lightning-devouring mushrooms grow in most places where lightning strike stones gather. They are nourished by the power of lightning and are also the guardians of these lightning strike stones. We can only collect the lightning strike stones after we have eliminated these lightning-devouring mushrooms. All of you should move in groups now. Release spiritual beasts to attract the lightning-devouring mushrooms and then kill them in groups. The upper house will be divided into 2 groups, the middle house will be divided into 4 groups, and the lower house will be divided into 8 groups. Let's begin. Vice Director Xiaofu and the others obviously had no intention of interfering. Since it was a training exercise, they naturally had to let these students do it themselves. Everyone immediately began to divide into groups. Hei Xinjiu was embarrassed because no one was forming a group with her. Chapter 56-64, Release Your Spirit Beast. This fellow wasn't in a hurry. He shamelessly muttered to himself, sigh, even if I participate in the battle as a good-for-nothing, PLL still be a burden. I'd better watch from the side. After saying this fellow moved to the side of Sect Master Yuan, looking as if he was watching a good show. Everyone was furious. What did he mean by taking advantage of others and pretending to be obedient? This was it. Min Dai was so angry that she shouted at Yun Chuzhou, Yan Qingcheng, join our group. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and said, Little butterfly, aren't you afraid that I will drag you down? Min Dai was so angry that she gritted her teeth. You are the little butterfly. Your whole family is the little butterfly. However, she still said with a stiff expression, I'm not afraid. Even if you can't help, you can at least help a little. Alright, since you're trying so hard to invite me, then I'll reluctantly join your group. Hei Xinjiu said shamelessly as she walked to Min Dai's side. Someone started to use the lightning spiritual power to attract the thunder-devouring mushroom. A mushroom that was as tall as an adult immediately jumped out from the ground and chased after the spiritual beast while waving its mycelium. The thunder mushroom was obviously not very intelligent. It was just foolishly attracted into the encirclement. The other teams followed the law and Min Dai's team also attracted a thunder mushroom. Everyone released their spirit beasts to attack the thunder mushroom. Min Dai saw that Yun Chuzhou only released a fireball occasionally and could not help but say angrily, Yan Qingcheng, what are you doing? Why didn't you release your spirit beast? The others also glared at Yun Chuzhou. In the past, they could let it go if they were just small fights. But now, when they were facing the enemy, it was somewhat unjustifiable for her to still be so careless. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes innocently. Little butterfly, are you sure you want me to release the spirit beast? Nonsense. No matter how useless you are, the power of the spirit beast is still greater than the power of the fireballs you throw from time to time. Min Dai said in a bad mood. Alright, since you insist on me releasing it, then I will release it. Be careful not to be scared. Yun Chuzhou said with a grin. Min Dai snorted coldly. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Quickly release it. Yun Chuzhou immediately released half of her spirit energy and a red claw appeared in front of everyone. Min Dai and the others. What kind of joke was this? This was a spirit energy beast? Whose spirit energy beast was a claw? Even the thunder-devouring mushroom was stunned for a moment, and then it extended several mice. Min Dai and the others watched helplessly as the red claw did not move at all and allowed the few mycelium to wrap around it until it dissipated. Min Dai and the others finally understood why this fellow in front of them did not release the spirit energy beast. It turned out that her spirit energy beast was even more useless than her. However, Now was not the time to be sarcastic. Everyone pretended that Yun Chuzhou did not exist and attacked the thunder-eating mushroom with all their might. Yun Chuzhou threw fireballs at the thunder-eating mushroom casually. Her heart had already drifted to those lightning-striking stones. She wished that she could keep all those lightning-striking stones. This fellow ridiculed in her heart. Didn't they say that lightning would strike here from time to time? Why didn't they? Instead, they would strike her with a few heavenly lightning bolts. That was exactly what she wanted. An hour later, the thunder-devouring mushroom that Yun Chuzhou and the rest had trapped finally lost its ability to resist. Its body withered rapidly like a punctured rubber ball. In the end, only a dried thing that looked like tree bark was left. Before Min Dai and the rest could react, the dried thunder-devouring mushroom was put into He Xinjia's storage ring. Everyone was so angry that they were twitching. When they were not active in battle, they were more active in snatching the spoils of war than anyone else. Chapter 56-65, The No-Cost Business. He Xinjiu bared her little white teeth. I'll help you keep it for now. Otherwise, your fighting power will be affected because of the uneven distribution of the spoils. Everyone was so angry that their teeth were itching. However, they did not have the time to deal with her now. They attracted another thunder-eating mushroom and began a new round of fighting. He Xinjiu still casually threw 2 fireballs occasionally. After Min Dai and the others killed the thunder-eating mushroom, she shamelessly put the dried thunder-eating mushroom into her storage ring again. Min Dai and the others were about to start a fight when they heard the instructor who led the way say, "All the thunder-eating mushrooms here have been killed. Now, you can pick up the thunder-striking stones. However, I want to remind you that although the power of lightning generated by a single thunder-striking stone is not a threat to you, the thunder-eating mushroom might have hidden a part of the power of lightning underground. Some of the lightning-strike stones may be connected to the power of lightning. Once you pick up such a lightning-strike stone, a huge amount of power of lightning will instantly surge into your body. Therefore, it is best for you to use your spiritual beasts to pick up the lightning-strike stones so that you do not suffer heavy injuries." Everyone immediately agreed. After obtaining permission, they could not wait to rush to the front and start searching for the lightning-strike stones. Not all the lightning-strike stones were exposed. Some were covered by vegetation, soil, or stones and could only be found by searching. Everyone released their spiritual beasts to search for the lightning-strike stones. Min Dai and the others looked at Yun Chuzhou gloatingly. This guy's spiritual beast was just a useless red claw. She could only watch them search for the lightning-strike stones. They deserved it. He Xinjiu blinked her eyes and released her red claw. She shouted, "Little claw, hurry up and find the lightning-strike stones for me. Do you hear me? Are you deaf? I'll let you help me pick up the lightning-strike stones. You dumbass. You're driving me crazy." Seeing that the red claw did not move at all, this guy slapped the red claw away and sat on the ground in anger. He looked like he had broken a jar. Min Dai and the others looked at each other with gloating expressions. However, they were too busy searching for the lightning-strike stone to ridicule her. Xiao Mogu. He Xinjiu looked dispirited, but she released Xiao Mogu with her right hand under the cover of her sleeve. Xiao Mogu quickly drilled into the ground. The spreading mycelium not only transferred all the lightning power hidden in the ground to He Xinjiu, but also absorbed all the lightning power in the lightning-strike stone that had not been searched yet. Therefore, a moment later, complaints came one after another. "Damn it! I saw that the spiritual beast found the lightning stones just now. How come they turned into waste stones in my hand? Why are these all waste stones? Have they all been cleaned by the lightning-devouring mushrooms? It took me a long time to find none. How depressing." At this moment, He Xinjia's heart was bursting with joy. The endless power of lightning was transmitted into her meridians by Xiao Mogu's mycelium. It was simply wonderful. She was really too smart. She had actually thought of such a good idea. This was much better than picking up some lightning strike stones. After all, she still had to hand over a portion of the lightning strike stones that she picked up. It was still a cost-free deal. When the power of lightning was almost fully absorbed, Heishinjo put Xiaomogu back into her spirit beast bag. This fellow felt that he was quite generous. After all, he had left behind dozens of thunderstrike stones for others. Director Xiaofu and the others were also somewhat surprised by the few gains the students had. However, they did not think too much about it. They thought that the thunderstrike stones had been absorbed by the thunder-devouring mushroom, which was why it was like this. Chapter 56-66, You said to hold your breath and not hold your breath. Translator, B4Y6Y033Y Min Dai and the others could not find a single lightning stone. They were all dejected and very depressed. Yun Chujiu sighed. We are really people who have fallen to the ends of the earth. Here, these are the 2 thunder-eating mushrooms. I'll return them to you. PM a man of my word. Min Dai and the others saw the thunder-eating mushrooms that Yun Chujiu handed over. They were indeed a little surprised. This fellow was really only keeping them temporarily. The sun had risen from the north. How could they have known that Heishinjo was in such a good mood that she was about to fly away? Naturally, she did not put these 2 thunder-eating mushrooms in her eyes. The instructor who led the way brought everyone back the way they came. At this time, the sky had already turned dark. Director Xiaofu ordered everyone to set up camp on the spot. Everyone surrounded the bonfire and talked about what had happened during the day. Min Dai and the others were no exception. Heishinjo shamelessly went over. Min Dai and the others remembered that this fellow did not covet the 2 thunder-devouring mushrooms. Although they glared at her, they did not chase her away. Thank you for taking care of me during the day. I'll roast meat for you to eat. Heishinjo said with a smile. Although Min Dai and the others were a little surprised, they thought about it again. This Yan Qingcheng was most likely frightened by the day's events, so she came to curry favor with them. After all, Sect Master Yuan could not always take care of her, she wanted to cling on to their thighs. With that thought in mind, they didn't mind and waited for Yun Chujiu to roast the meat in peace. The reason why Heishinjo was so kind-hearted was that this fellow was too happy. Moreover, such a good deed could only be kept in her stomach and couldn't be told to others. If she didn't do something, she felt that she might go crazy from being too happy. Thus, this fellow was like a diligent little bee, helping Min Dai and the others roast meat. Of course, he didn't forget to send some to Sect Master Yuan. When Min Dai and the others saw Yun Chujiu like this, their disgust towards her lessened a little. After all, there wasn't any deep hatred between them. It was mainly because of the matter with Beiyu. Of course, a large part of it was also because Yun Chujiu was too cocky and too good at drawing hatred. Min Dai remembered what happened during the day and asked, "What's wrong with your spirit beast? Why is it only 1 claw?" Yun Chujiu sighed. "Sigh, I was framed by Xiao Yanxiao in the upper house and almost fell into the underground fire cellar. I was too scared, that's why it's like this." Min Dai and the others had heard of this matter and knew that it was because of this matter that Beiyu was moved by Yan Qingcheng. It could be said that it was a blessing in disguise. However, it looked like Yan Qingcheng had also paid a heavy price. If she could only release that useless claw in the future, her future would be bleak. People sympathized with the weak. After Min Dai and the others noticed that Yun Chujiu was also very pitiful with the truth, they did not hold a grudge against her anymore. The next morning, everyone found a place that was similar to yesterday. After killing those thunder-devouring mushrooms, they began to pick up the lightning stones. Yun Chujiu still released her red claws. After making a lot of noise, she sat on the ground and started to absorb the power of lightning. This guy was so beautiful. She had never dreamed of such a good thing. It was so easy and safe to absorb the power of lightning. Was there such a good thing in the world? She must be too kind. Therefore, she was touched by the heavens and touched by the heavens, giving her such a wonderful opportunity to absorb the power of lightning. This guy was happy, but those students with thunder spirit roots were very depressed. After spending a long time to kill so many thunder-eating mushrooms, she finally found out that the thunder-striking stones here were all useless. How could she hold her breath? Chapter 56-67 was dug out. The students were depressed, and so were the lecturers, especially Director Xiaofu. He felt that this experiential learning was not going well at all. First, he lost 3 students while crossing the river, and then he lost another student while collecting the lightning strike stones. The most unfortunate thing was that the 2 lightning strike stones in succession were produced from very few places. Generally speaking, the production of lightning strike stones was directly proportional to the number of lightning mushroom. Clearly, the number of lightning mushroom in these 2 places was not small, so why was the number of lightning strike stones so small? Was it really just bad luck? Instead of ordering everyone to leave immediately, Director Xiaofu took a few lecturers and carefully observed the waste stones on the ground. He Xinjia's expression was the same as the others, but her heart skipped a beat. She couldn't see anything wrong, could she? One of the lecturers held a piece of waste stone and said, "Director Xiaofu, there is still some residual temperature on this piece of waste stone. It is obvious that the power of thunder and lightning inside has just been absorbed." A lecturer beside him echoed, "That's right. The same goes for this piece of rock in my hand. Could it be that there are still some lightning-eating mushrooms that haven't been drawn out?" Director Hao of the middle school shook his head. Even if there aren't any lightning-eating mushrooms that have been drawn out, it's impossible for them to absorb so many lightning-striking rocks in such a short period of time. There must be something else going on here. Director Xiaofu frowned. "Dig it up and well know what's up." As he spoke, he released a giant wolf of spirit energy. The 4 legs of this giant wolf had already materialized. The students cried out in surprise. Even the upper academy senior students inside could only materialize 3 claws of the spirit energy beast. As for Min Dai and the others, they could only materialize half a claw pitifully. Under the command of Director Xiaofu, the huge spiritual wolf waved its 4 huge claws, causing dust to fly into the air. Soon, a few deep pits were dug out. Director Xiaofu and the others examined it carefully. Although they found some tiny gaps left by the mycelium, they thought that it was left by the thunder-devouring mushroom and did not suspect anything. Even so, He Xinjiu was frightened and decided to hold back for now. There was no hurry. Therefore, the next day, when she found a new lightning stone, He Xinjiu did not let Xiao Mogu make a move. She looked at the crowd with a pained expression. Especially when she saw that the lightning power hidden underground had been activated and wasted, her heart ached even more. Although this guy looked happy for the crowd, his heart was bleeding. This was originally hers. This fellow was unwilling and attacked again the next day. This time, this fellow had learned his lesson. He only allowed Xiao Mogu to absorb the lightning energy hidden underground by the thunder-devouring mushroom and did not touch those lightning stones. Although doing this would reduce the lightning energy absorbed, it was still better than nothing. As expected, this time, it did not attract the suspicion of everyone. He Xinjiu could not help but heave a sigh of relief. A mosquito's leg was also meat. One should be content with what one has. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days had passed. The students were already familiar with it. The shadow of the death of their companions had also been washed away by joy. They felt that this Thunder Valley was nothing much, so there was no need to worry too much. The students of the upper house and the middle house were increasingly dissatisfied with the people of the lower house. They looked at the people of the lower house with eyes full of disdain. They felt that although the lower house had more people to contribute in killing the thunder-eating mushroom, the number of kills was about the same as theirs. However, due to the large number of people in the lower house, they had a huge advantage when they picked up the thunder-eating stone. This was really too unfair. Chapter 56-68 was to be carried out in batches due to the dissatisfaction. The friction between the students of the three academies increased and the atmosphere became a little stagnant. In fact, if Vice Director Xiaofu had reprimanded them, the students of the upper and middle academies would have restrained themselves a lot. However, he didn't do anything and allowed the situation to become more and more serious. Sect Master Yuan immediately understood Vice Director Xiaofu's intention. He was forcing him to take the initiative to carry out separate operations. What a narrow-minded person. He did not understand why Vice Director Xiaofu was so hostile to him. They did not have any interaction in the first place. What was the reason? However, no matter what the reason was, he could not let the situation continue to escalate. He took the initiative to look for Vice Director Xiaofu. Vice Director Xiaofu, in order to prevent the situation from escalating, our lower house should collect the lightning strike stone alone. Vice Director Xiaofu didn't even bother to say any hypocritical pleasantries. He immediately nodded in agreement. That's fine too. This way, we can also avoid the displeasure between the students. In the middle court, Sect Master Hao looked at Sect Master Yuan apologetically but didn't say anything. The other lecturers didn't say anything either. Other than Sect Master Yuan, the lower house didn't have any other lecturers accompanying them. In fact, if these people understood the general situation, they should have taken the initiative to join the lower house. After all, there were so many people in the lower house. Sect Master Yuan alone wouldn't be able to take care of them. However, no one made a sound. A cold smile appeared on the corner of Sect Master Yuan's mouth. He returned to his tent without saying anything. The next morning, when Vice Director Xiaofu made this decision, the students from the upper house and the middle house were naturally elated. However, the students from the lower house were a little panicked. Once they separated, their strength would be greatly reduced. What if they encountered danger? Could they rely on Sect Master Yuan alone to turn the tide? However, things had already come to this point, so there was no use saying anything. The students of the upper and middle school looked at the people of the lower house with a rather smug expression. Under the lead of Vice Director Xiaofu, they strutted away. They could conclude that the people of the lower house were definitely in a sorry state. The number of thunderstruck stones could not be compared to them. After the figures of Vice Director Xiaofu and the others disappeared, Sect Master Yuan swept his gaze across the crowd. He did not say anything about this batch operation. He only emphasized discipline and divided the crowd into 10 groups and appointed 10 team leaders. This way, he could ease the pressure on him. Yun Chuzhou felt that Sect Master Yuan was more suitable to make decisions than Vice Director Xiaofu. That Vice Director Xiaofu had an arrogant look on his face. Sooner or later, he would be in trouble. After Sect Master Yuan had made the necessary arrangements, he gave the order to set off. The atmosphere in the team was a little depressing. The crowd was not as cheerful as they had been a few days ago. Their feelings were complicated. There were those who were despised by the upper house and the middle house, and those who were abandoned. There were also some who were worried about the unknown dangers. Of course, there were also those who were happy, such as He Xinjiu. Without Deputy Director Xiaofu and the other lecturers, Sect Master Yuan could not keep an eye on her at all times. It would be even safer if she were to do something small. Just as this fellow was feeling happy, he caught a glimpse of Xiao Lianping's unfriendly gaze. Yun Chujia's lips curled slightly. Is he going to make a move? Very good, I won't kill you. Sect Master Yuan had been to the Thunder Valley a few times before, so he knew the distribution of the lightning-striking stones like the back of his hand. Soon, he led everyone to a place where the lightning-striking stones were produced. Just as Sect Master Yuan was about to let everyone in, he found a bright red mark on the stone wall at the entrance. This was the unique mark of the 10 Directions Academy, which meant that the people from the lower house and the middle house had already entered. Sect Master Yuan had no choice but to lead the people from the lower house to continue looking for the next place. Chapter 5669 was no match for Yan Qingcheng. Sect Master Yuan was not dissatisfied. After all, first come, first served. However, when he led the people from the lower house to the next lightning stone producing area in a hurry, he found another bright red mark on the stone wall at the entrance. Sect Master Yuan's expression immediately turned ugly. However, he thought that perhaps the people from the upper house and the middle house had also separated, so they occupied two producing areas. With this thought, he put down the dissatisfaction in his heart and continued to lead the people from the lower house on their journey. However, when he saw that another lightning strike stone site had been marked, Sect Master Yuan's expression completely darkened. It was obvious that Deputy Director Xiaofu and the others had done it on purpose. They had deliberately occupied 3 lightning strike stone sites, so that Sect Master Yuan and the others had wasted a day's time. The next lightning strike stone producing area was half a day's journey away from here, and it was already Shinshur. There was no time to find the next lightning strike stone producing area. The students of the lower house were not fools. They had also thought of this, and their faces were full of anger. The upper house and the middle house had gone too far. They were all students of the 10 Directions Academy. Was there a need to go so far? Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and walked to the stone wall. She took out cheap slut number 1 and cut off a piece of the stone wall with the red mark. Then, she turned it into powder with a slap. Under everyone's confused eyes, He Xinjiu calmly put cheap slut number 1 into her storage ring and clapped with a smile. Sect Master, I told you that Vice Director Xiaofu wouldn't go so far. There really is no mark here. This is great. Let's hurry in. If we delay any longer, the sky will turn dark. Sect Master Yuan was stunned at first, then his eyes revealed a trace of a smile. That makes sense. Everyone, follow me in. The others were dumbfounded, but they still subconsciously followed Sect Master Yuan into the room. After walking for a while, everyone finally reacted. The upper house and the middle house were damaged, but they still couldn't win against Yan Qingcheng. The wicked will be tortured by the wicked. To deal with those shameless people from the upper house and the middle house, Yan Qingcheng still had to take action. After a quarter of an hour, everyone arrived at the origin of the lightning strike stone. However, they encountered a lecturer and a few upper house students. The mark on the stone wall must have been left by them. When Lecturer Yan saw Sect Master Yuan and the people from the lower house, he could not help but be stunned. He said, Sect Master Yuan, this? You did not see th. Sect Master Yuan was stunned. Mark? What mark? The people of the lower house all gave a thumbs up in their hearts. The acting skills of the Sect Master were high. If they didn't know the inside story, they would have really thought that the Sect Master didn't see the mark. When Instructor Yan saw Sect Master Yuan like this, he could only say, I left a mark on the stone wall at the entrance. This place has already been taken by us first. Sect Master Yuan, please move to another place. Instructor Yan, are you joking? Did you really mark the entrance? Along the way, we've already found 2 marked lightning strike stone producing areas. If this place had also been marked, wasn't this thing done a little too far? Is this forcing our lower house to return empty-handed today? Could it be that Vice Director Xiaofu arranged for you to do this? When Sect Master Yuan finished speaking, his tone already carried a bit of sternness. Instructor Yan secretly complained in his heart. Looking at the situation, if he admitted that there was a mark, Sect Master Yuan would definitely not let it go. These were all people from the lower house. If they argued, he would not be able to gain the slightest advantage. Moreover, he was not Vice Director Xiaofu. He did not dare to go against Sect Master Yuan. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.